Hello people, it's Bunny. In this video, I want to talk about what I thought of Stephanie Buttermore's journey and how much I could relate to my own journey. Stephanie Buttermore was a fitness influencer that went all in. So she decided to eat as much as she wanted every day in order to regulate her hunger cues because she was feeling hungry all the time. She was having before a few epic cheat days, and only during this day did she feel some kind of fullness after eating. She wanted to see if going all in could fix that because she was hungry all the time, always frustrated. Now, when I saw that, at first, I thought she looks good. Why would she do the opposite? Why would she gain weight on purpose? Why would anyone do that to themselves? I also did not understand at all her extreme hunger because I experienced the complete opposite. Now, there's something you need to know. I did discover Stephanie when I already overcame my eating disorder. I was not behaving in the previous way I was when I had my eating disorder, but I only had my own experience to compare it with in the end. Watching more and more of her videos and her journey and following what she was going through, I started to understand that her all-in journey was actually pretty similar to my intermittent fasting journey. Stephanie Buttermore and I were the opposite. She was underweight and I was close to overweight. She was always shredded. I was never into lifting actually, until recently. She was always feeling hungry. I was always feeling full. Her all-in journey was to eat whatever she wanted without any restriction at all times. And my journey was restricting myself. In intermittent fasting, I could only eat in a certain window of time and I was not allowed to eat during the rest of the day. But in the end, we both got to the same point, which is intuitive eating. In my eating disorder, I could not control my diet. And when I was always ended up binge eating and eating more than I could. And I could never have a completely controlled diet like she had. It did happen once, but it lasted 6 months and then I ended up taking double the weight, and also my genetics that tend to stock more fat from my diet. I never had this very lean physique like she has. I never even came close to that physique. For me, achieving this lean physique was the reward and the end of the struggle, and I did not realize that there actually was eating disorder on the reverse side. In the end, both of our eating disorder were pretty similar. I experienced constant fullness while she experienced constant hunger. Stephanie was always controlling everything she was eating and she was obsessed with the way she looked and always body checking, always controlling her caloric and macro intake. I was obsessed with my way of eating and the way I was looking, but I was unable to control it. I was unable to force myself to undereat. My body was actively fighting against me to not make me fall into that. But because of this fight between me and my body, I was constantly eating. I was never feeling properly hungry. I would eat 3 times a day and I would eat snacks. I would have a lot of mental craving that I would answer. I was unable to say no to my cravings. I was always bloated and feeling full. For me, after a meal, I never felt still hungry or I never felt satiated. For me, the end of the meal was when I could not eat more. That I was bloated and I thought if I eat more, I'm going to be sick. And that was all of my meals, basically. So for me, seeing someone like Stephanie Buttermore being always hungry and finishing her meal when she was still hungry, it was insane. I did not understand that. It was the complete opposite of my own struggles with foods in the past. The thing is, Stephanie started her journey in 2019 and I started mine end of 2018, so it was actually pretty close. Now everyone's different and the key to a diet or a change in your lifestyle that is going to work for you, is your personality, is to take into account what you need and how your body will respond to a kind of diet or a change. For me personally, intermittent fasting worked wonders. At first, I studied intuitive eating 8 hours a day, and I was really curious to see how my body was going to react to this change. And the first thing I learned was hunger. I was not in tune with any of my body signals. I was eating in the morning, at lunch, at dinner, because I was taught to do that. And I was eating snacks in between because I had cravings. And during each meal, I would always eat too much. And I actually was always eating even though I wasn't hungry. The reason I think intermittent fasting worked so well for me is because it taught me to hear these hunger signals in the same way that Stephanie Buttermore's All-In taught her to hear her fullness symptoms. To feel my extreme fullness and extreme bloating as Stephanie was fixing her extreme hunger, we both had to go to the extreme of what we were at. She was eating too little, I was eating too much. So she started to eat a lot and I stopped eating. I'm going to be honest, it wasn't that hard for me. I started this intermittent fasting as kind of an experiment, and I started to say to myself, I want to see if I can spend so long a day without eating. So I at first did the 8 hours window and shortened it to 6 hours to 4 hours, and at some point I was even doing 1 meal a day actually. In order to set my eating window, I thought I'm going to spend the day without eating and see when I'm hungry I will eat, and from that point is going to be my window. The first day I did not eat in the morning because I woke up and I was not hungry. I've never been hungry in the morning, and I wasn't hungry until 1 or 2 p.m. I would be lying if I said that I'd never felt hungry in my whole life before. Of course I did. For one, because my body was used to eat at certain times, so come lunch, I would start to feel hungry because that was the time to eat. Of course, happened that some days I skipped the meal because I did not have time to eat, and I did feel hungry. But they were just details in my life. I did not really pay attention to these, and actually to me, during these moments when I was actually hungry, this was horrible. In my head I was like, oh my god, I'm hungry. This never happened because I was never hungry. So if I'm hungry, it's dramatic. I need to eat because I'm hungry. I was looking for that hunger. So when I felt it, it was interesting. I was first surprised to discover that my body did not actually need food until midday or early afternoon. Now that's personal to me. I know that some people, if they do not eat in the morning, they will be weak and hungry and cranky. Of course, if you're like this, you should eat. And if you know that you won't have time to eat until very late in the day, of course you should eat. I'm just saying that I was experimenting with my own body. I realized that it didn't actually need that much energy at the beginning of the day. I still had a lot from the night because I guess I'm someone who likes to eat generous meals at night. So I would eat my biggest meal at the end of my 8 hours window, which was usually around 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. before I went to bed. And in the morning, I was not feeling hungry. I learned to live in this way, and I started to realize that I was feeling way better in terms of bloating, and I discovered that hunger was such a good feeling. When I started to eat when I was actually hungry, it felt so much better than eating when I was not hungry. And little by little, I started to realize that when I was eating when I was hungry, I tended to stop when I felt full, not when I felt extremely full. It's like before, the way I used to eat was just making reserve, eating when I'm not hungry, eating a lot until I'm full. Because if I'm eating when I'm not hungry, I start to eat without cues, I'm going to stop without cues. But when I started to eat with cues, I stopped with cues. And I discovered this new type of being full and this new hunger, and my meals just start to regulate themselves over time. It really helped me stop eating all the time because I discovered that I didn't need to. And for this time, for this intermittent fasting journey, I was experimenting with my body. I was learning to understand myself and listening to my body cues. And that really helped me, realizing that you did not need so much food. You did not eat to eat morning, lunch, and dinner. I also learned that if I feel hungry, it is not dramatic if I do not eat right away. I discovered a lot, and it really helped me calm down my hunger and guide me all the way to intuitive eating. Eating to fuel yourself, eating to feel good, working hand in hand with your body instead of against it. Now, the big difference between gaining weight and losing weight is that one is way more easy than the other. Losing weight is much harder to do if you come from my background, which is not being able to stop yourself from eating. But it is very nice and rewarding to go through that path, because you will have everyone around you making nice comments and saying, you look so nice, have you lost weight? And you're like, yeah, I know. And you start wearing crop tops. I think the year I lost weight was one of my best years, because I learned to understand my body, I learned to love myself, and I was seeing myself looking prettier and prettier, and that was just so nice. Now, I cannot say it was the same for Stephanie, unfortunately. Stephanie was doing this because she was feeling hungry all the time. At the beginning of her journey, she was eating a lot. I think around 5,000 calories a day, if I remember correctly. It would take her that to feel full, especially since she's a fitness influencer and she used to be very shredded. She used to conform to the beauty ideals. Because she did the reverse, she got a lot of comments, not nice ones. Seeing her going that way was really hard for me at first to understand. I was thinking, why would she do that? And it's when she reached the end of her all-in that I realized she did it for the same reason as me. She wanted to get rid of her obsession with food and the way she looked. Reaching intuitive eating through her all-in journey was the key to that. Just as it was the key for me to stop my constant fullness and hear my hunger cues. She stopped her extreme hunger and she started hearing fullness cues. And when you look at her journey, she started to eat less and less, little by little. And actually she hit I don't know if you could call that a plateau, but she hit a point towards the end of her all-in journey when she was not hungry anymore. And she couldn't eat in the morning. She was not feeling hungry in the morning. It's funny because I've experienced the same. At the end of my intermittent fasting journey, I stopped being interested in food for, I would say, 2-3 months. I had no more interest whatsoever in food, and just without noticing, it came back. My hunger came back. I have no idea why it happened. It was like both our journeys had been kind of a detox, like a therapy, a course treatment of our hunger cues. And at the end, when we were released of this, just completely separated ourselves from food. Now, Stephanie and I, we have something in common. We love food, we love sugar, we love donuts. Thankfully, we got out of that and now we're back into our little sugar treats. Both of us were stuck in the diet culture that planted in us an obsession with our physique and what we were eating just to fit into beauty ideals. Now, she was managing to be in those ideals, but she demonstrated that in the end, she did not realize how happy and fulfilled she could feel until she was out of this beauty ideals. If you look at her videos before and after, she's a completely different person. I was so surprised, and she looks so glowing now. And if I think about it, me too. I'm feeling way happier, and I can feel the change. I can feel that I'm a different person. I'm a happier, more confident, more determined person than ever now that I've reached intuitive eating. Losing weight in the end was just an incidence of changing the way I was looking at food. Because I did not start my intermittent fasting journey with the idea of losing weight. Of course, I did. But the principal drive of my intermittent fasting journey was to change the way I was looking at food and experiment with my body and start to learn to listen to my body. And nothing ever did me so much good than this. Starting to work with my body instead of against it was the best thing I could ever do for myself. And I want to give a shout out to Stephanie here, because this girl is an icon. She's done the opposite of what everyone was expecting her to do, which was keeping this ideal body shape and shreddedness. She done the opposite of that. She just says, screw that. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna gain weight. Guys, I don't care about this anymore. I want to think about myself and preach this. Preach this. This girl is an icon. She fought against this unhealthy diet culture and ideals of the fitness industry. This is so admirable, and I'm really, really happy that she's out there spreading the message. That's why I'm making this video. I just want to keep spreading the gospel, and I want to show that what she's achieved is also achievable on the other side. No, I am not saying to anyone to do intermittent fasting, okay? I'm just saying that it did work for me. Just like it worked for Stephanie. All in does not work for everyone, but it did work for Stephanie. Just like me, maybe intermittent fasting is not going to work for you. Maybe it is. I do not know. Please, if you ever think of doing it, go to your doctor or registered dietitians, professional that have had experience with this kind of diet. Just like Stephanie did, reaching out to Nicola Rinaldi, educate yourself on the topic before. I did not just rush into my intermittent fasting journey. I did heavily research it before. I'm guilty of not reaching out to professionals, but I did do my share of research. So please don't think that it's so easy. I know I make it sound easy, but it might not be for you. It was for me, but it might not be for you. So even if you try it, if you find that it's not easy and that it's not for you, don't force yourself. Also, in my eating windows, I was not under eating. I was in calorie restriction because I did lose weight, but I was without noticing. During my eating window, I would eat whatever I want. I would eat until I was full. Also, I quickly want to say, I know that it may look idealized, even though, yeah, Stephanie showed all the bad parts of her journey, but because now she does look pretty amazing and she does look fitting to beauty standards. I just want to point out that she's an experienced lifter. Guys, she got the muscles. You know, when you have a lot of muscles, even if you have a higher percentage of body fat, you're going to have a very nice looking body because, well, you've been working on it. If you guys attempt to do anything like this and realize that why you're not getting like her in the end, well, first thing you shouldn't think about is because this whole journeys, they are supposed to guide you to intuitive eating and out of this diet idealized body culture. But if you still want that perfect body, there's just one way: just start lifting. That's the only way. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to break it down to you. Also, I'm not saying that these diets and journeys are miracles, because you could end up on the wrong side of it. Perhaps some people who did that all in ended up overweight. Perhaps some people who did intermittent fasting ended up too skinny because they didn't have the right mentality throughout the journey. And that mentality is: think of your body, not of your physique. Think of your health functions, not of the way you look to others.
The most unhealthy I've ever been was when I was lean, and the healthiest I've ever been was when I gained weight.
Diets, they are just concepts. So you're the key to make the diet work. It's not the diet that is going to change your life, it's yourself. If I have any advice, educate yourself on nutrients and the way what your body needs to function well. Educate yourself on hunger hormones. If you're stuck in a bad place where you cannot hear your hunger cues anymore, challenge yourself so that you will feel them and experiment with them. It's not gonna happen overnight. It took me months. It took Stephanie Buttermore months, and learn to work with your body instead of against it. If you're someone who've experienced this kind of journey and you are now on the other side, bright side, huge pat on your back right now, because you've achieved something amazing. And if you're someone who wants to take the step forward, then all my strength, good luck, and all my love. You deserve to do this, and you deserve to challenge yourself and to discover yourself and to love yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it did reach out to some of you guys and that you found it interesting, hopefully. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.